For Alex, there is just one task left to do. The company would now like to see if it is possible to produce the 12 manuals that will give them the correct profit in just 20 weeks. So, the first thing we're going to do is click into B5 and change that to 12. And when we do, you'll see that it's actually going to take 30 weeks given the current inputs. But if we were to add more staff to the project, maybe increase the working day or even the working week, we can reduce this duration. We would like Excel to automate the process much like we did with GoalSeek. The only problem that we found with GoalSeek is it only allows for a single input. And here we have 3 potential inputs that we could change. Where that is the case, we're going to look at a tool that's even more impressive than GoalSeek, and it's called Solver. For Solver, I'm going to come to my Data tab. However, Solver is not automatically available in the ribbon. If it has been added, it will be at the far end of the Data tab, but there's a good chance you won't see it there. If you don't have it, I'll show you how you can add it in. We are going to come to the File tab on our ribbon, and we're going to come down to Options. And the Solver is an Excel add-in. So we're going to click on Add-ins, and then right at the bottom you'll see Manage Excel Add-ins. That's perfect, just click Go. And there's the selection of all of the add-ins available to you. Just make sure that you've ticked the Solver add-in and click OK. Of course, if you already have it, just close the dialog. Double check and you should see the Solver add-in at the far right of your Data tab. So let's see how it works. I'm going to click on the Solver. And the first thing it wants to know is the set objective. Much like GoalSeek, that's the cell that contains the formula that you want to return a different result. So, click in that and we're going to click on E7, which contains our calculated duration. Then you have 3 options. You can either maximize the value, minimize the value, or set it to a specific value. We want it to get to a value of 20. The next thing we need to do is specify which of our inputs can change. So we're going to click in it by changing cells, and I'm going to select B7 down to B9. If you had values that are not next to each other, just use your control key or comma to separate them. That's all set up, so we can click the Solve button. It goes away and it comes up with the solution. Excel's got this down to 20 weeks, which is brilliant. It has adjusted each of the inputs we specified it could, but if you have a look at the projected profit, that's not looking so good. The problem is, with all this overtime work to pay for, it is eating into our profits quite badly. We probably are not going to keep that solution, but at the same time we don't want to throw it away. We want to be able to show management that this is what it's going to look like if we do go for the 20 weeks. The nice thing is the Solver is integrated with the Scenario Manager. So if we click Save Scenario, it will ask for a name of the scenario. So we're going to call this 20 weeks and then say OK. And now we have a few options. We can restore our original values, which we want to do. We've already saved the scenario, we've got that. And you could return to the Solver Parameters dialog, but we have something else we need to do first. We are just going to click OK, but make sure you've restored the original values. It's not a bad idea to keep your original scenario as well, so you can come back to it if you need to. And we're going to do that quickly, so back up to our what if analysis, click Scenario Manager, click Add. We're going to call this one 30 weeks, and click OK. And there are all the values all set up. So just click OK again and close. We've already got 2 scenarios and it took us very little effort to set them up. Let's go and see if we can improve on that earlier model. I'm going to come back to my Solver tool. And one of the big problems with the solution we came up with was making our staff work 9 hours a day, 6 days a week. The reality is there are often going to be some real-world constraints on our inputs. So, for example, we are only allowed to have 12 staff maximum. Those staff are not prepared to work more than 8 hours a day, although they are prepared to extend that to 6 days a week. Now, what we are going to do is add some constraints. We're going to click the Add button. And our first constraint is going to be our total staff B7. That must be less than or equal to 12. Please make sure that you choose the correct operator. If you force that to be equal to 12, then it won't be able to be any other value, which means we won't get the flexibility that we want. So we're normally looking for less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. And now I want to add another constraint. So I'm going to click Add. We're also going to specify that our working day must be less than or equal to 8 hours. And Add. And then one last constraint, our working week can be less than or equal to 6 days, and I'm going to click OK. So we've added our constraints, but you can come in and change these constraints at any point, remove them, or add additional ones. Now, all we need to do is click the Solve button. This exclamation mark indicates that although Solver did its best, given the constraints, it could not actually find a solution. It would have got as close as it could to the 20 weeks, and you'll see it actually has got to 21 weeks, which is not bad, and it has met all the constraints. Profits, still not looking so good. But let's save that scenario as well. So we're going to click Save Scenario. We're going to call this 21 weeks, and then we're going to say OK. Once again, I'm going to restore my original values, but I'm also going to return to the solver parameters because we're going to try one more thing and say OK. Just as a kind of experiment, what we'd like to see is how we can produce our 12 manuals but maximize our profits. So in our set objective, we are going to change that. Instead of changing our duration, we're going to make that our projected profit. And we want to get that as large as we can, so we are going to click Max. The rest we're going to leave exactly as it is. So the same constraints apply. And we're going to click Solve. This should be interesting. Let's have a look. Well, we've managed to more than double our profit, but it has come at a price. Our duration is going to be 42 weeks because to get the profit, we have to reduce all our overtime. Well, that's interesting. So let's save that scenario as well, and we're going to call this 42 weeks and say OK. And this time we'll keep the solver solution, so we're going to click Keep Solver Solution, untick Return to Solver Parameters dialog because we're done, and say OK. So there's our final solution, which we personally think is the best, but obviously we'll need to go back to the business with it. It would be useful again if we could see all the potential scenarios next to each other. So come back to our what if analysis, click Scenario Manager, click Summary, and click OK. There's our second summary showing the 4 different scenarios and the profit they will produce. So the Solver tool is a very powerful what if analysis tool that will allow you to model different situations with a variety of inputs and constraints, and even integrate that with the Scenario Manager so that you can store your different solutions. We have looked at several modeling tools this week. Don't forget to have a go at our practice challenge, which will let you practice all the skills and start getting more familiar with them. Then see how you can apply these skills to your own business problems.